And we are live. Hello and welcome to Developer Insights. I'm David.
And I'm Justin.
And together we are the leads on game development and design here at Codename.
And we also founded Codename, so we've got that going for us too.
We're going to be your hosts for this episode and for every episode.
Because generally if we're not here, the show doesn't happen.
I don't know if it's generally. I think it's been the case so far.
Today is our 37th episode.
And we've got good news. Today's episode is not canceled.
Ah, shoot. I was really counting on that. I didn't prepare anything.
Do you ever prepare anything?
I did that one time, remember?
You're going to have to jog my memory.
Anyway, we are here to answer development and design questions about idle champions.
Hold one moment.
What? We are.
But if you don't ask any questions, however, you may have to suffer through Justin's one-man reenactment of this morning's D&D Direct.
Actually, I missed it. I was in a meeting. Did anything interesting get announced?
No, I don't think so. Just some random old adventure books that nobody cares about.
That sounded pretty sarcastic. Maybe I should go watch the VOD.
Yeah, I think you should, but I think you should wait until after our stream to do it.
Well, hey, I can do two things at once. Just a sec.
Anyway, as always, we have pulled some questions from the previous show that we did not get to, and we're going to answer some of those while we wait for new questions to come in, as well as I have some updates on items that we have flagged to have the development team look at, and I'm going to start with those. So, still on the list here, of course, is the new shop. So if you've been testing out the new shop, we have been continuing to make changes to that to improve things. One major change that we made earlier in the week is that the store will actually pause the game when you bring it up for a short period of time. That's 5 minutes. This is actually how the old shop worked generally, because the chest opening screen did that. And this having that happen means that you won't get interrupted by pop-ups, as well as the shop should just in generally perform better because the game is not going on in the background there. But the 5-minute timeout, of course, is so that if you accidentally leave it open at that, you don't come back to no progress. The hotkey legend on the main menu is now there, so if you are looking to find the list of hotkeys for the game, you can find them in the main menu as well as on the link that's sort of hidden in the bottom right. The fix, actually, here's one for that's been on the list for a while. If you transferred in from WebGL and you weren't getting your Steam achievements for achievements you achieved on WebGL, you should be getting those now. It is tagged as fixed, so if you are not, please open a ticket or let me know here and I'll pass that on to Peter. As well as there is now an indicator on the formation preview when you are starting an adventure that should indicate which slot is blocked by a champion if that champion starts in that slot and cannot be moved. So yeah, a number of the items that were on the list from previously are now taken care of, but we have added a few new ones. So new from last week, there is a bug where the nerd's alt, if it occurs during the transition, it doesn't shake up and it uses your cooldown. So we're going to get that looked into, as well as we'd like to add an ability to look at other champions' character sheets without having to switch to them. And we are looking at adding an option to add or type in the number of chests you want to buy instead of using the slider, because that can be a little bit tedious. And of course, still on the list is additional objective details on the MultiParty display. That is something that is on the list for our Modron update. Some improvement flow to the open more chest flow, I guess. And there's been an item on here for a while, and I know Peter wanted to get more details on this because when it occurs is a little more has had some questions, and that is that sometimes when you have the formation circles always showing, they don't always show, which is what they're supposed to do. So that's still there to take a look at. And that is the end of that list. Hopefully we can get a few more of those things knocked off and a few more things added this week.
That was a long list.
It is a long list. All right, let's get into leftover questions from last week's show. First question is from Emmett, who we can never decide on how to pronounce. When you decide on a slot for the eventual next Oxventure champion, could you please consider putting them in seat 3 or 9 or maybe 12? Rust replaced Nova, which was a big loss in damage, and I'd love that situation to not happen again.
Yeah, this is a great question, a great request. And this is something that is really quite challenging. One of the biggest challenges we have when designing characters is picking their slot. And the reason for that is there are a lot of different variables that go into that. I think it's emote with 2 M's.
I see that.
So deciding on the slot, we look at a bunch of different things. One of the things we look at is sort of how long it's been since there's been a champion in that slot. So how many events it's been. Especially we sort of prioritize around the most recent event champion. So if there is a champion that just came out like 3 or 4 events ago in a given slot, we'll generally avoid putting another champion in that slot right away. Other things we look at is affiliation stuff. We try not to put champions from the same affiliation in the same slot. So far, so good, knock on wood. We try not to put too many champions of the same gender in the same slot, so we try to maintain a good balance there. We also try to maintain a good balance with classes and roles and alignments. So we don't have a slot that is all chaotic good champions, so that when you get that adventure that requires an evil champion, then you can't do it. We are doing generally okay at that. The other thing we consider is patron eligibility. We try to maintain a relatively even number of champions available for patrons in each slot. We're doing okay at that, but we've got a little bit of strawed work to do on that in a couple of slots. So there's a lot of things that go into where we put a champion. And we're continuing to increase sort of the number of things because we're starting to really look at synergies really closely and sort of meta combinations of champions. We're doing a lot of analytics around that these days. So it's generally it comes down to there's never really a best, like a slot that is very clearly the best slot for a champion when we're doing that kind of design. Instead, we have to kind of find the best-ish. There's generally nothing that has all pluses and no negatives. So it's a challenge. We will, of course, try to put them in the best slot so that they can synergize with as many other champions as they can. But we will always have to put them in some slots, so there'll always be 4 or 5 or 6 other champions that they can't be used with, and that is just the inevitable conclusion of putting champions into slots.
Pigeonhole principle, maybe.
Sure. It's tough. It's one of the hardest things we have to do. Let's see. The next champion here from Jacques of Hearts is for you, Dave, and it says, could we get something on the multi-party selection screen to show the adventure level goal beside the current level?
Yes, 100%. That is on the list for the Modron updates. In fact, I think it's been assigned to Alex, so I think it's going to happen. I could be wrong about the person it's assigned to, but I know it's on the list. I know it's going to get it. That's going to get done. So
yeah, that's why I copied that question because I knew it was on the list.
Perfect. Easy question.
Shabam! Next question.
The next question here is from Shirley. Oh. I'm sure it's been asked before, but why is the 3rd core so expensive to buy? I'm grinding up to 500k and it feels weird after the first 2 were special quest rewards.
Yeah, so this is a good question. So when Modron automation and multi-party initially got released, there was 1 core that you got from completing the first split the party, and the 2nd core was this 500k core. So sort of the idea was, you have one of your parties automated and one of them that you were kind of actively using. And if you're able to save up 500,000 gems, then you could potentially automate both of them. When the 3rd party came out, we added another core to the quest reward, so you were able to have 2 parties automated without having to spend anything, and then 1 party that was not automated. And it was really just to have different sources and have something to grind for with gems as well. once you can automate a party, grinding gems is a lot easier. And so, some sort of big reward to go for, some sort of end game reward for that, felt like that was appropriate. We're kind of we're trying to decide exactly what to do with the next core for the next party that unlocks, whether we include that as another quest reward or whether we put it into the store as another sort of end game grind target. But we haven't really come to a conclusion on that yet. So there may be other ways to obtain Modron cores in the future as well that aren't necessarily quest rewards or grinded rewards. So, we're just variety. It's the spice of life. And so we will continue to add more variety in where things come from and try and further intertwine all the systems in the game. Let's see here. Next question from the last week's show, from the prior show, is from Johnny Diamond. And they are asking a question that we have heard quite often, but it is, any plans to make the game downloadable from the App Store on Apple M1 devices?
Yeah, so at some point in the future, that'll be the case, certainly as Apple is switching all their devices over to M1 or M1 2 or whatever they're Apple Silicon devices. But that's not something that we've been able to get to at this point. But certainly in the future, it will be. But I don't have an ETA on that.
Cool.
All right. I am seeing in the doc here, they're saying that Justin is a lot quieter than I am.
Well, in general, I'm just a quiet person.
I
tried to move my mic after that was mentioned. I tried to yell a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah, your levels seem pretty similar, but let's see if I can make an adjustment.
Okie dokie. Do you think people are excited about Spelljammer and Dragonlance? I'm not seeing any questions whatsoever about that.
I bet they are. Let's make that a little louder. All right, well, I made some adjustments. I'm not sure how much more I've got there to add volume to you, but we'll see if anyone says anything further.
Great.
All right, new questions from this week. First question is from JS in the...
Jason?
The question is, are console updates planned for the achievements ever?
Yeah, so I think we talked about this last week's show, but I'm happy to repeat the answer to this if there were people who weren't around for that one. But the console achievements, so the ones you can earn to get like the platinum badge or the whatever the Xbox equivalent of that is, those ones are a lot more difficult for us to update. The platforms themselves don't like us 100%ing people's progress. For obvious reasons. So it's very hard for us to be able to add more achievements to console. Generally, it's only done with like new major expansion packs. So you'll notice, like, in whatever, like Assassin's Creed or whatever, you'll get you won't get new achievements until they do like a really massive DLC for it. So it's similar kind of restrictions for us. We are not planning on adding more achievements to the actual console versions to the outside of the game. We are, of course, always going to add more of the in-game achievements because unlike the consoles, we don't mind 100%ing you because it gives you more stuff to do to get that bar back up to 100%.
Fair enough. Next question here from Wandering Bereft. D&D Direct, Dragonlance is back. So Dragonlance Champions when?
Oh, that's a very good question. I'm sure there will be Dragonlance Champions in the game. I do not have an ETA on them, but yeah, absolutely. Any content that Wizards comes out with that is exciting and that we can get excited about and you guys can get excited about, we will add to the game eventually.
Next question from the Real Bunny Beast. Are we going to space?
Space. Yeah, sure. Well, I'm probably. I don't know. A lot of people were kind of wondering about this. We just found out about this like 4 hours ago. Like, give us a chance to kind of make some plans. But probably, I assume so.
Next question from the Lurking Writer. Spelljammer confirmed for Idle Champions, right? Right?
Right. Probably. Sometimes we don't highlight questions if we don't have a good answer for them. In this case, I felt like I needed to highlight those questions, even though I don't have a good answer for them. We will most likely put some Spelljammer stuff into the game, put some Dragonlance stuff into the game. Next year when they release who knows what, we'll probably put that into the game.
Okay. Well, I see you've highlighted the next question too, so I assume you have a good answer for it. So I'm just going to ask it to you and see if you do.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Volkus asks, does Titania's speed mechanics work in background party? What?
Tatiana.
Oops. Background party or offline? When can we expect all mechanics, definitely, especially speed, to start working for all parties, not just the active one?
Yeah, so my guess would be that Tatiana's speed mechanic does not work in background parties or offline right now. And the reason for that is the offline progress system is well, in need of some love, let's say. And ideally, when we do get around to fixing that, a lot of those speed mechanics will start working in background parties. That's kind of my one of my big goals for the updates to offline progress, which are planned for soon. Knock on wood. So yeah, it's something that we really want to do, or I really want to do, at least. The devs less so want to do it because it's hard, but it's something that I would really like to get in there so that there is some equivalence between the active party and offline party, especially for platforms like console or mobile, where you don't necessarily have the ability or opportunity to have the game on all the time. So you don't get the full benefit of those speed mechanics in any party, let alone, you know, for like Steam or Epic players who can just leave the game open in the background and at least get those mechanics happening for one party. So yeah, that is something that we're really hoping to do, and actually relatively soon, compared to other things that we'd like to do.
Yeah, we have been putting together a plan of attack to address some of the offline progress systems just in general. My sort of caveat on that, for all mechanics, when can we expect all mechanics? My guess is that it's likely to be sort of very specific ones get put in, and features and capability to handle them gets added in, but it's likely that there will always be some that don't quite work in offline progress. But we're going to try and make it so that as many as possible do, especially the ones that have the higher impact. So
yeah, and I guess I would sort of, if we want to get a little deeper into that, I would say that the reason that not all mechanics are going to kind of work 100% is because offline progress doesn't directly just, you know, run your progress for that and simulate out all of your progress. It kind of does snippets and sort of estimates. And
yeah.
So things that are very spiky, things that kind of turn off and on very often, usually they're very hard to implement in that kind of thing. You know, something that takes 60 seconds to power up won't fully power up in our sort of slices that we simulate, because we're only simulating, you know, 30 seconds at a time kind of thing. So we have to do some approximations for things like that, and that ends up being very ability specific.
Yeah, each ability ends up needing its own heuristic to calculate when it should run or when it shouldn't, and how that should be affecting your progress, which of course ends up being ability specific, which means that as these things go through, it does mean that it's additional pieces for each individual ability, and some of them are easier than others to make work sort of at a similar rate.
Yeah, and we're kind of we're kind of constrained on one side because we don't want to mess up and have offline actually be better than online, because having a kind of system where, like, if you're actively playing the adventure, if you're better off to go to a different adventure or close the game or whatever in order to progress, like, that's just bad game design. So we need to kind of make sure we don't go over the line there.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, yeah. Next question. With all this talk of an overflow system for Modrons coming up in the indeterminate future, as well as a new Modron or Modrons, are you going to be doing anything with Modron Chests and their contents? Directed cross pieces especially, to accommodate the many more pieces we're likely going to need?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think the answer is kind of, I'm not planning on doing kind of probably what a lot of people would like, where just, letting you craft a specific directed cross piece, because those cross pieces are, to be fair, extremely powerful in Modron animation, and being able to get exactly the one you want or the ones that you want would be extremely, extremely powerful. And so I do still like the idea of those being at least mostly random. I think new systems will probably open up ways to get more chests for free, and so that will hopefully help with a bit of that. But in general, we're kind of this overflow system that we've teased in the past will give you pretty much infinite expansion of your cores. So every new cross piece you get, you should be able to find some way to use it in one of your cores. And I think it'll just be kind of interesting that you'll continue to be able to power up with each one you have. Getting a new cross piece in a chest should be an exciting thing. So I hope it will continue to be. And it looks like we've got a giveaway going that I try to shout out every time it starts. But if you type Jammin in chat, JAMMIN, you will have a chance to win 42 chests of your choice. Those could be gold chests. Those could be champion chests. They could be silver chests if you don't really like chests. They could be Modron component chests if you're after some cool cross pieces. Any chest that you can get in the game, I think, except for the Trials Mount Tiamat Bahamut chests. So enter Jammin in chat now for your chance to win those chests. Let us continue.
Next question. This question is from JDog2773. Can you explain Jorvin's healing ability to give him the healing tag?
Yes, this was pointed out to me by the other designer who was going through and doing a sanity check on some stuff. I don't think Jorvin should actually have the healing tag. I think he had a healing ability early on, and that tag got copied into his data, and then I believe the tag got removed from the design doc and never removed from the data. So I believe that tag will get removed at some point. I'll just highlight that so I can double check that. Let's see. Next question here is from Onyx Squared. It says, "Hi, Dev Singers. Was there any particular feature or champion you brought into the game that you were sure players would freak out over?"
That's a good question. Although before we answer that, I'm going to say, while we might have to do the art stream, I don't think we're going to do the singing stream. I think that's probably a bad idea.
Oh man, dev karaoke?
Oh no.
Sounds like a great idea. You should hear me before we come on stream every day. I'm just humming the loading screen tune.
I almost turned the mic on for that.
Someday you should, just so people can hear my amazing. Though I don't know if it would sync up correctly, because I'm doing it based off of the Twitch window I have open, which is running like 2 seconds behind. So it would probably just sound really bad. Anyway.
Yeah.
Probably
a feature that we thought players would freak out over, I assume in a positive way.
Or a champion. I thought players would be pretty excited about Dungeon Master, and I think people were pretty excited.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know.
It's dev signers.
Devziners. That's
developers, and just had the G and N backwards.
Fair enough. I can't think of anything that I thought players would freak out over.
I think every kind of major feature we roll out, we're hoping players will be excited about.
Certainly MultiParty was one that I was pretty excited to get out, but
yeah.
And then there was, that one came out with a lot of fixes needed.
A lot of bugs. I think players would freak out if we released a major feature without a whole bunch of bugs. I would certainly be excited about that.
I don't even don't undersell us. All right. Yeah.
Let's see. Next question here. Let's go down to this one here from Battle Pickle 615. You just picked this one because of the name, didn't you?
It's a good name.
Battle Pickle 615 asks, is there any plan to be able to navigate from the new store directly to opening the chest purchased?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like an oversight. I guess this is a case in the new store because the chest opening screen is not open underneath it, that you actually have to go back, go to the chest opening screen, and then open it from there, and that there's not some just quick link from the store to the chest opening screen. That, like I said, that sounds like an oversight. I like that. I think we're just going to fix that. I'm going to highlight that to add a link back from the store to the chest opening screen, so you can immediately do that.
I could have sworn that one of the I seem to remember sitting down in one of the Shop 3 design review sessions and saying that when someone buys a chest, we should open the chest screen behind there so that they close into the chest screen so it functions like the old store. I guess that just didn't get written down.
Yeah, it can be a little bit tricky, but
it's tough to do. It's tough to kind of navigate the screens behind there and whatnot, but absolutely that sounds like something that is a good idea.
Yep, for sure. All right, next question, which is actually the previous question from Emote, because we know how to pronounce that now. Thank you. You've mentioned that certain newer champions will be getting balance visits at some point. Are any of the new Ox Venturers on that list, such as Prudence with her very slow attack and losing Glee stacks when other champions are using their ultimates, or Corazon's missing E3 buff, Silesa's words, not mine, or Rust being below average support while also being in Averin's and Nova's seat?
So the answer to that is, let me see. Yes, Prudence and Corazon are both on the list. I don't see Rust in the list yet. So one of the things we're doing right now is we're looking at the bottom, all the champions in the bottom 30%. Which, considering we have 100 champions a game, is the bottom 30 champions in terms of usage. And we do weight that usage by seat as well. So, if there's a champion that has a really low usage and a seat that has a really low usage, they'll be kind of higher up in that list. But yeah, we're looking at doing some balance updates, primarily number updates, as opposed to changing their actual abilities. So things like Corazon being a little underpowered and stuff like that would probably get captured in this. But we're planning to. Our hope is to start rolling these out kind of on a weekly basis in the coming weeks, and start with our core champions that are a little bit underused, our core and evergreens. So I think that list is Makos, Jamila, Rhea, Azaka, and Xeraphon. So we'll be looking at those 5 champions in the next week or so, and hopefully getting some number updates out. The nice thing about number updates is they don't require a new build, so we can just kind of do them as much as we want. And then it looks like there's some year 1 champions the next week after that, and then a couple of year 2 champions. Year 3, 4, and 5 would come weeks after that. Delina actually is an interesting. Delina, for some reason, Delina's usage isn't as low as you might think it is. Delina is surprisingly popular. I think they're in. I think that they're above. Well, they're obviously above the 30th percentile in terms of a champion. I think they're somewhere in the 40 or 45th percentile in terms of usage. Doesn't mean they're used by 40 or 45% of people. It just means that they're used more than 40 other champions. So yeah, there is Delina is probably not going to get a pass in or any updates in this pass, but who knows? In the future, if we do well with these updates and everyone kind of gets moved up above, Delina could get punted down into the bottom 30% and get caught in the next pass. But yeah.
I don't know. They're suggesting that maybe those numbers are a little biased due to patron challenges.
Maybe. But hey, if you have to use Delina in a patron challenge, then Delina, I guess, is pretty popular.
All right. Here's a good question. I tagged this one for you, Justin. I know you're dying to answer this.
Oh my God.
This is a question from Dota 2 Norax. Are there any updates for the HueBriv changes? Huh? Justin, are there?
Yeah, so we are hoping to get those. When was the build lock? It was the next build lock is when we're going to try and get that stuff in. So it's probably not for a little while longer. I think it's sometime in May that we actually have the build lock for that. Right now, the only thing that I kind of have locked down is the BRIV change, which is to make it so BRIV can't skip bosses except in free play. So it wouldn't change any of BRIV's behavior in normal free plays or gem farming or stuff like that. Just in variant adventures that you haven't completed before, because we want you to see our bosses. We spent a lot of time designing them, and they're really cool, and they will destroy your party if you do not skip over them. So you must be destroyed. As far as the hue changes go, we are still working on those, trying to figure out exactly how we want to cap or adjust that ability. And we've got a lot of kind of options that we're considering, but I don't have any specifics on how that is going to work. Let's see, next question. It's from Monkey House, who says, regarding the new store design, are you only looking for bugs, or would it be appropriate to give commentary on the design choices as well?
Yeah, so we're definitely looking for both. Bugs, of course, but as far as design commentary, we're happy to receive it. Doesn't mean that we'll be able to make changes specific to the feedback on that, but we have been looking at what players have been saying. At this point, we have already we've toned down the colors. I know that was a big one, as well as been adding back in various levels of icons and other pieces on the items so you can better tell what's going on. I know initially there was commentary around items like the timers and countdowns that were missing, and we've added those back in. Some of that was actually, some of the timers and countdowns, they should have been there to begin with, so it was something that was a miss. But yeah, absolutely. Anything that's feedback on anything related to it, we'll take it. And you can provide that, in the chat here, or in the Discord is a great place for that. The store feedback, I think there's a specific channel just for that. I know there is, because we're going to do a reenactment of reading it previous weeks, but yeah. So definitely any commentary on the design, I'm going to go through that channel on a regular basis and read that up as we continue to work on the store. So for sure. Next question here is from Daydog2773. You suggested that DM will qualify for all patron variant restrictions. Does that include variants that have a stat maximum like a charisma below 13?
Yes, DM will qualify for all patron and variant restrictions. All adventures. You cannot keep the Dungeon Master out of an adventure that the Dungeon Master wants to go on, unless he has something else to do, in which case Uni will take over for him. But yes, Dungeon Master is available for all adventures, and if you use a specialization, he can pull one friend along with him. And I think there's a champion spotlight coming out tomorrow, at some point. So yeah, Dungeon Master is available for everything.
Fair enough. You say you can't keep him up. What if the players just don't want to play with him? They don't.
Nope, he's Dungeon Master. He goes where he pleases.
Okay. Even if he has to go by himself. All right. This next question I tagged because I thought this was an interesting question around feats. This is a question from Raphael 9340. Do you guys have plans to have feats or something similar to it that gives champions less stats? For example, a -1 on strength, charisma, constitution, etc. Only asking because now you have been introducing a lot of variants that need lower than a certain stat.
Yeah, interesting suggestion. I think we've definitely considered it. I don't think we have any plans for it right now. We do want to do something with feats, something big with feats, I think around the anniversary this year. But we don't have any specifics on what that'll be. We've gotten a lot of good suggestions actually during Dev Insights of some things we could do with feats to make them more interesting. Adding more feat slots, or just letting you equip all the feats, or changing sort of the data values so they're more impactful. So there's a lot of stuff we're considering for feats, and negative feats could potentially be one of those things, because yeah, I can definitely see the use case for them in certain situations, at least. Actually, a funny situation, if you could dequalify some champions for patrons, I guess you could restrict what you get in the patron chests. Interesting little...
I'm just thinking what they could name the feats, because, you know, they're sort of like, if they're going to be a
negative strength one, it'd be like, oh, weak.
Sore leg.
Weakling. Sore leg. Low charisma would just be like, I don't know, smelly.
We might have to workshop that one.
No, these are all verbatim. As soon as it comes out of my mouth, into the game. Anyway, I highlighted a question a little bit further up here after we had gone past it.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Go back up to question 11 there.
Okay, question 11 was from Kuvu Plan, asking, in Icewind Dale, how did all the plane-shifting characters and places who were displaced get resolved? Is there room for more adventures to clean that up?
So I will focus on the second half of this because I don't know the first half, but I do not believe we are planning any more adventures for Icewind Dale. I think the issue is we're running so many campaigns kind of concurrently, and obviously there'll be another campaign that starts when the new books come out in September. And so we have to just, at some point, we just have to kind of say, that's it. And I think that's around 20 adventures per campaign at this point, with the exception of Grand Tour, which we will continue to just add stuff to moving forward. So there's, as far as I know, there's no plans to add more adventures to Icewind Dale to kind of wrap up any loose ends, and we will leave that to the each player's imagination.
Wow, looks like the chat's actually got some great suggestions for the negative feats.
Perfect.
You know, looks aren't everything, as for your low charisma, Justin. I mean, for the character. Then we got clumsy for dexterity, or you alternatively foot and mouth.
Yeah, we can give that one to you. Anyway, developer fights. Next question from Camro85. They say you added blockers that take up 3 slots. Is this a test run for maybe a champion that takes up more than 1 formation slot?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a question that's certainly been asked a number of times, so that multi-formation slot champion, that isn't something that we've been actively looking into. So a 3-slot block is not a test of that. But I do think that'd be pretty cool to have, but it has a bunch of tricky caveats around it that we'd have to work out. So it's not a test for that, unfortunately. Yeah,
I think that would end up being probably one of the most complex champions we could do, which would be it'd be a lot of edge cases to that one.
Wouldn't be a lot of places you could put them. We'll have to walk sideways.
There could be like some formations where they just don't fit.
All right, the next question here, which feels like maybe something I would have looked at. I can't believe we missed this. Is a question here from Maniac Clown. And Maniac Clown asks, / says, I've noticed some oversights in terminology. Like Zorbu's endless quiver item, when a crossbow fires bolts, and Nova's basic attack being called Dissection, which is specifically for cutting open dead things. We'll have to confirm that, but sounds right. Instead of Vivisection, which is cutting open living things. Is that the sort of thing that anyone cares enough about to go and fix? Can you not dissect a live thing? Is that the...
I believe so. I believe quivers can hold bolts. I had to Google
nothing
it.
Is stopping them, I suppose.
I'm pretty sure they can.
I keep mine in an ice cream container.
Fair enough. I don't know about the dissection or vivisection thing. A body or plant too. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think these are certainly good things for us to double check. And honestly, some of us are quite particular about some of this stuff. So yes, I think there are people here who care about it, and we can definitely take a list or take a look. Sorry, I was reading something in chat as I was. But yes, I think those are some interesting things that you bring up, and I think it's something that we can double check and make sure we're not saying something the wrong way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, nobody here would stop a meeting if someone said irregardless.
Yes.
Didn't happen. Next question is from Mike Baldy. Mike Baldy asks, when Trials was released, multiple community members estimated problems with the various systems. That within a couple of weeks, it was clear that those estimates were correct. When this was brought up during the past Q&As, we were told that you wanted to start slow, collect data, and tune into a more positive direction. Trials has been out now for 30 weeks. Can we get an update?
Yeah, that's fair. So we do have a bunch of changes prepared for Trials. The issue for us has been finding the dev cycles to do it. We've been very, very focused in the last year and a half on localization, which is coming to head very soon. And that will hopefully be something that is out and just running without too much hands-on time from us, or from the development team, I should say. So Trials is on the list to be looked at, some of those changes, which will hopefully help to make the system a little bit more inviting and a little bit easier to use. With that said, there are a bunch of changes I want to do to legendary items and the legendary crafting system that are not included in that in these changes. So they are still in the future times in terms of when they're coming out. But we do have some very specific Trials changes that we want to make in the next couple of months. Don't quote me on that, though. That will hopefully make the Trials system a little bit better for people. So yes, there are changes coming, and they've just been delayed due to other stuff that has taken priority, which sucks. I wish we had time to do everything we want to do, but we have to prioritize.
Okay, the next question is from Bruce Flash, and Bruce asks, when you say we, quotes, when determining champion slot or just mechanics in general, does that include anyone from the community? If not, it seems like an important individual to have in the room when making those decisions.
So at this point, no, we don't include anyone from the community in terms of champion slots. For mechanics in general, yeah, we have started to reach out to a couple of folks in the community and sort of get their feedback on what kind of things would be interesting, what kind of niches are unfilled in the current swath of champions that are available. So we're starting to do a little bit of that. In terms of champion slot and stuff, it's something that it takes a lot of data to sort of get, and there's a lot of things we're thinking about when it comes to champion slot. So we don't specifically sort of ask for, hey, ask some of our community members, what slot do you think this champion should be in or whatnot. But we are continuing to try and do the best we can. And now that we've got both Pete and myself working on design, we've got a couple more, or at least one more head in there. So it's not just me kind of unilaterally making decisions and missing things that are important.
Yeah, I was going to just add to that, sort of deciding on the champion slot. It is one of those things where there's a lot of information around that some of which we can't necessarily just generally share, especially like what upcoming champions are already selected for particular slots. So, or, how those are being balanced out. So that one's a little bit tricky for sure, but it does sound like, I know I've heard some feedback from various design meetings that have been going on with people who are members of the community. So that's good to see.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Next question from JDog2773. I've seen this question
Just getting
before.
this fill.
Can there be an indicator on the adventuring parties icon that shows when a background party has achieved the target level positively or idled negatively?
Positively, I think it's and idled negatively.
Idled negatively. I assume those would be two different.
Oh, I see. Yeah, two different icons, right? And so the intent, the question here is around the icon itself on the bottom bar, rather than having to open it up and take a look.
Yeah, I think it's just something so you can kind of look and be like, hey, there's something here that I should look at because something has happened.
Your attention is needed. Your party has completed its adventure. Would you like to complete them? Yeah, no, that sounds like a good idea, honestly. I'll add that to the list. I'm going to highlight that one. I think that sounds useful. And while we're looking at the Modron stuff, see if we can get something like that in there.
Yeah, it feels pretty straightforward.
Don't say that. You say that now, it won't be. That data won't even be loaded.
Womp womp.
Oh. All right. Next question here is from the Lurking Writer. We have one Gith champion in game, and plenty of Gith as enemies in things like the Endless War, Quest Variants. Are there plans to bring in more champions elements related to Gith in general to the game?
Okay, well, first, it's pronounced Jith. No, I'm just kidding.
Give you a gift for your birthday.
So the sorry, I'm just amused myself here. This is really sad. So the answer to this question is there are not currently plans that I know of to add more Gith to the game. It's tough because, you know, even though we add so many champions to the game, there are so many good options for champions to add to the game that we just haven't gotten back around to the Gith. I really do like them, and I think that there's lots of fun stuff in that sort of realm to do, but at this point I don't think we have any on the plate, for at least for 2022. Yeah, but it'd be really cool. I'd love to add more Gith to the game.
Just spread it around. Next question is from Old Man Master. I know you stated that you do not really want Patron Variants to be revisited. What are your thoughts on maybe using time gate pieces to unlock a complete Patron Variant? I was just thinking time gate pieces could use other uses, and I know a few people want to replay the Patron Variants.
Yeah, it's an interesting suggestion. I think that it's tough. You know, I know a lot of the community really does want to replay completed Patron variants, because there are some interesting variants out there, and you know, once you've kind of done them, you can't go and do them again, and so there's some mechanics there that players would like to play with again. At the same time, there's some mechanics that we kind of don't want you to play with again, because we can be, because of the fact that you can't revisit Patron variants or variants in general, you know, we can be a little bit more cheeky with some of the restrictions, and we can do things that kind of, you know, temporarily break the game. And so that's one of the reasons that we don't want to necessarily just carte blanche, just allow you to redo completed variants. But you know, some way to maybe do it on a limited basis, you know, that might be a possibility in the future. You know, it's I continue to be aware of the fact that it is something that players would like. So so keep on asking, and eventually you'll wear me down, I'm sure. Let's see. The next question is from Rayonix, and they ask, oh, this is a nice question. Hello, do the increase the damage of all champions by 100% buffs apply on champions you summon after getting the buff, or do we have to wait to summon every champion before taking the buff?
Yeah, so that's
a great question. Hey, Rayonix, welcome to the game.
And thankfully, it has a fairly straightforward and positive answer, and that is no, you don't have to wait before you take the buff. Any champion that you unlock after that and add to your formation gets the buff that was unlocked earlier. So,
yeah. And you know, if you're new to the game and you wanna ask more questions like that, we highly encourage you to check out the Idle Champions Discord, which I believe you can link to from in-game, but someone can probably also do some sort of exclamation mark thing in chat to link that. And there is a massive, incredibly helpful community there who would be happy to answer any other questions of this sort.
And we're happy to answer them as well. So,
of course.
We like a question that doesn't delve deep into the decision-making process of the next debuff that you're. That's not happening. Anyway, next question is from Raphael 9340. 903040.
93.
Anyway,
I mean, sure.
I know, sure. I'm not. Anyway,
one way to pronounce that.
I'm sure there are thousands more. Do you guys have any idea if Mahen's specialization to call his daughters has been fixed? And if you guys are expecting a similar bug to occur with Dungeon Master?
So I believe that the last I heard on this was that the Mahen specialization was in the process of being fixed, but the issues with it were separate from Dungeon Master. So as far as I know, knock on wood, there are no similar bugs with Dungeon Master, and they were able to kind of do a bunch of testing on that and make sure it worked in as many situations as they could test. But the specifics of the Mahen one were actually a little bit different from how Dungeon Master will be implemented for their ability to call a friend into the adventure.
Cool. There was one question here I was going to ask. I'm going to highlight it now, but I think just the wording just slightly. But this question I thought was interesting. This was from Yoda Ate My Head, and they're asking that how many times or how often do we propose a character for the game, and then for the people at Wizards who give us approvals say, nope, you can't have that, or that's yes. Can't touch that character.
That's a good question. I don't think it's very often these days. I think earlier on, like back when we were just sort of developing the game, I think we got a couple of no's. Not that one, or because sometimes Wizards has plans for characters. They're going to be reworking a character for 5e or something like that. That's from an earlier version of the game. Or from a different setting, and so sometimes we get no's for that. I know at least once we got a no on Dungeon Master a lot earlier in the process. But these days, we've got a pretty good relationship with Wizards, and they kind of trust us to do right by their content, and we try and do our best to do that. So I think we're all pretty happy to kind of start to stretch out and try some fun things.
Yeah, and I think this applies, sort of seeing some comments there, no, you can't have Darth Vader in the Forgotten Realms, more specifically to characters that would be sort of characters that are already part of the canon, if we're looking to use that versus characters that we're bringing in from a content creator or that sort of thing, because that generally, I think at this point, because we've had so many good content creator characters in, they don't look at those as a no off limits from their standpoint, unless there's something significantly. I don't know. So I can't think of a reason at the moment that would adjust that. But generally speaking, if it's a content creator's character and that content creator is well known, there's not really a big issue there. But I think it might be more of an issue around if we'd asked for a character that they're like, yeah, we're about to use that in the next upcoming content book, and we'd rather you didn't start putting things in that are potentially adjusting the canon or would be would confuse the matter. I think. But and so I don't know, but maybe you've got an idea off the top of your head, Justin, but I think more of we're far more percentage wise content creator style characters than ones that are canon characters.
Yeah, I think it's a fairly high. I think it's around 2/3 right now that are content creators.
Yeah.
We still have to get approval for them from Wizards when we do them, because they don't want us doing some content creator that does this the character that has this super objectionable thing or whatever. But we tend to weed that stuff out before it gets to them.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that we can look at and be like, no, I don't think they're gonna like that.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like a good idea.
All right. Next question, which is actually the previous question. Once again, going back and
I've been really slacking off on highlighting questions today.
And actually, we better get to it quick because we were just on the edge of our time. This question here is from Marek. Are there any plans to make a B. Dave Walters skin for Dungeon Master, or maybe an Aaron M. Evans skin?
Yeah, I saw this. I think this question came in last week as well, and I saw it mentioned in our internal chat. And I think a lot of people thought it was a really cool idea, but I don't know if it's something that Wizards would go for potentially. But yeah, I think it's a fun idea, and I think it'd be really cool way to kind of honor those dungeon masters.
Okay. Next question, which is the actual next question, from SailNet. Blood vial cards from Bahamut chests seem to be all blue now, but still only give one vial. Can you explain the reasoning behind this change? Only getting one vial from a blue card feels way worse than only getting common cards.
Yeah, so my explanation for that change is that does not sound like an intentional change. That sounds like a bug of some sort. So that is something that we can get the team to look at and see what's going on there. Let's see, we got time for one or two more questions. 1 or 2 more champions. We'll design them today. 1 or 2 more questions.
In the next 4 minutes,
In the next 4 minutes. Yeah, well, hey, champion design's not that hard.
I knew it.
Let's say the second to last question is here from JDog2773, who asks, will the chest opening screen get a visual rework similar to the store?
So that's not something that we've talked about at this point. I know occasionally it's come up that the chest opening screen is a little bit on the blander side now, as far as could be a little more interesting visually. And I know it's been suggested from numerous people that it would be really cool if, as you progressed, more and more of your sort of loots from your adventures, not the musical kind, but the golden kind, would appear in the background. In the chest opening screen, because that's a great place that something like that could be done, but it isn't something that we have specifically planned at this point. And of course, if we were going to make it similar to the store based on the feedback, I guess we'd have to hang a disco ball and foot and mouth. Got it.
No, we need to end the stream.
Okay. Do you want to answer the next one, or are we timeless?
Sure. No, we can. You know what? I can go through the list of the next one.
All right. You got 2 minutes to do it, so let's see if we can do this. The question, this question came in shortly after Justin was talking about the bottom 30% champions, and this question is very specifically: can we see or hear the bottom 30% champion list? Okay.
You can hear it. So for whoever's transcribing this into the Discord channel, here you go. Good luck. Makos, Jamila, Rhea, Zaka, and Zeraphon are the core and evergreen champions. For year 1, we've got Nrak, Stokey, Dadius, Krond is all crossed out, so maybe Krond, Xander, and Binwin. For year 2 champions, we've got Walnut, Rosie, Jim, and Vlanya. For year 3, we've got Puent, Sentry, Melf, Jahira, and Kreidel. For year 4 is Prudence, Ariza, Alindra, Corzon, and Penelope, just barely. And year 5 is Brig, not Briv, Brig, Yorvin, and Vi. So there you go. Those are the bottom 30.
All right,
and
you got a minute.
If there are not 30 there, don't blame me, because I was just reading off the list.
I was going to say you have a minute to spare, but really it's more like 30 seconds now. So,
oh my gosh, we got to go read the thing here.
Let's hop back over. It's one of these.
It's one of the other.
Sure. Yeah. That definitely is all we have got time for.
As always, if we didn't get to your question, don't worry, you'll have another opportunity. We will be live again at this same time next week, almost certainly. Before we sign off, though, we'd like to thank our tireless mods, Mames here, Mars and Martin, who copy your questions into our questions doc and generally make things awesome. Thanks, guys.
And of course, thanks to all of you for hanging out, asking great questions, watching the stream, and enjoying the game. Because without you, no one here would get to do what we do.
Oh, we'll have to do something else, I guess.
That's right. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Bye.
I lied. We totally had like a minute left.
Oh, no. You know what we should do? We should have music on this outro screen.
Well, go ahead.
Dun, 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 dun. Da, 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 da.
Nope.
No. Okay.
Nope.
No. Vetoed. Bye, everyone.